Hello, Sara Haines.
Hi, Brian.
We had a really interesting, great show today. I always miss Joy when she's not here, but we had another original co-host in her spot.
I always notice when Joy is gone because the unending comedy that she dishes out throughout commercials is gone. But it was a treat sitting next to Star Jones.
It was a treat producing Star Jones. It's really cool for someone who grew up with the show. And yeah, no, I know. It's and she's just slipped so easily into it.
It fits like a glove for her.
Yeah. I remember she was doing the interview to Melanie Lynskey, and she's like, well, we always ask this. And I'm like, you're not always here, but she was here for a very long time. And
Well, on the way out, she said something like, can I carry these blue cards out? And I thought, Star Jones is asking me a question about how the View runs. I had questions, but I guess I'll leave him at home for now.
It's great. And there really is just this kind of thing. I mean, I don't think anybody understands what it's like to be a View host except for the people that have been View hosts. So it's kind of, even though there's bickering occasionally and things like that, there's really like a sisterhood of people.
There absolutely is. I think once you're in, you're in. I'd say 99% are really proud to have been a part of it. And I think once you've been in, only you get it.
Right.
So it is an instant bond of sorts.
And we were talking on the commercial break. Star has been here, was on the show only for 9 years. Not only for 9 years, but you're 8 or 9 years yourself at this point, I think. Sunny's at 9 years.
And then now I'm in my 5th. So I'm like 7 because I left for 2.
Okay.
So, yeah.
But I mean, it's crazy because I feel like she's such an institution of the show.
It's Star Jones.
Right. And that's your favorite version of the show with Meredith and all that. So.
Dang right it is.
That's right. We also had Melanie Lynskey on the show today.
Oh!
You were very excited about that.
She's so talented. There are people that I don't think get their due. She's very deliberate in how she chooses movies. So she always picks a lot of independent films and quality work. And she even said when I mentioned that to her, well, it has to be worth it to leave my child.
Right.
But she's one of those, she reminds me of like a Catherine Hahn, not because they have similar tendencies, but they're hilarious. And sometimes when they're on in a scene, they steal it just because they're there.
Right.
So I've always been a fan of hers.
And she talked about how women in particular relate to her character's internalized rage. I feel like it's a choice people make. You either have internalized rage or externalized rage. And never the twain shall meet. Really.
Yeah, but internalized rage will come out.
Eventually, it'll
externalized
pop.
Rage is felt feelings, and we can move on from there.
Right.
Internalized will eventually erupt.
I think it's a question of having like a huge temper and having ulcers and being quiet about it. I don't know. It's interesting.
Well, you hope that slowly less things enrage you.
Yeah.
So you're not storing as much on the inside.
Right. Like for instance, Joy Behar.
Yeah.
I don't believe has any internalized rage.
Oh, no, because she feels it in the moment. She's very healthy about it.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's probably the better way to be.
Absolutely. If you say, like, do I look fat? Yeah, you look fat.
Yeah.
And then we move on.
Right.
Like,
or if she's mad at you, she'll tell you why, and then she moves on from it.
She'll say, don't stomp on my jokes.
Right.
You jumped right in there. I'm so sorry, Joy. And then she forgets.
Yes. Yeah. Others I've dealt with have more of an internalized thing. It's interesting.
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's a tough skill to... Confrontational sounds aggressive, but like it's hard to have tough conversations or confront tough situations.
I would say for the View hosts I've worked with, it's probably 70-30 externalized rage.
Which one? Oh, 70%?
I think so. 70% it's externalized rage, 30% it's internalized rage.
I'm definitely on the 30.
Yeah, you're one of the 30. You're one of the 30. But
I might be one of the top of the 30.
Yeah. Like, again, Anna Navarro, not really an internalized rage person.
No. She wears it like an outfit.
Yeah. Sunny kind of is a little more
Sunny
internalized.
she can dodge and weave.
Yeah, she can spend some time stewing over things.
Yes,
yeah.
And she admits that.
Yeah, she does. No, for sure. Anyway, I'm going to make a list. All right, let's go back to a story we talked about today about Lily Collins.
Yeah.
And her husband Charlie McDowell's choice to have a child through surrogacy. They were saying a lot of online comments speculating as to why she chose surrogacy. Why do you think people feel like they have a right to comment on someone's personal choices?
I have no damn idea why they do. They're all trolls at this point. But I also don't think there was a world in which she couldn't share that. I know that was a difference of opinion at the table. But in this paparazzi world of also like online fans, like the little sleuth detectives that do all their work, people will compare pictures and dates and times. So I don't think there's a world in which someone that wouldn't have had to have been spoken about at some point. But I also don't think there's an answer to that question that is anyone's business.
That's
so,
right.
If I don't care if she, from weight to it was their only choice to everything in between. That is such an intimate and precious decision, how you create, or sometimes it's your only choice on how to have babies. It's really no one's business.
Well, I mean, like, you know, and Alyssa shared that she's going through IVF, which I think is very brave that she's doing that publicly. You've had 3 children in the public eye.
Yeah.
What has that experience been like for you?
Well, I had shared this morning that there was a moment where Max and I always dabbled. They say every couple dabbles with one more child they didn't have. And I always wanted 4 because it was arbitrary, but I'm one of 4. So after we had the 3rd, I remember saying a few times, like, sometimes you ever think like we won't get this chance to have the 4th. And I had said, I don't think I could carry another baby, not just because of my age, but like, I thought, you know, mentally and emotionally, I had 2 postpartum and like during pre-pregnancy, while I carried the baby, after I carried the baby, that is not just a 3-month period, by the way, that can go years into having kids. So the cumulative effect of the journey and the beating it took on me, not only me, but then now I have 3 kids and a husband, and that is not something you get to keep to yourself. When you suffer, everyone around you will feel it.
Right, and you had 3 kids that were very close in age.
Yeah, very close in age, and it's even though I had postpartum with Alec, and it took me not a long time, but a while to be able to put a name to it. Sandra, it wasn't easy, and I had struggles, but then I didn't even recognize it when it hit me with Caleb, and I'd had it before. So like that's the crazy part, is it presents as shame, it presents as being broken or not cut out for the job or imposter syndrome. You don't want to talk about it. It's awful. And it feels like if you say something that someone's going to be like, oh yeah, maybe that is true. Like, it's not a safe thing to talk about. It feels very vulnerable. It's still to this day. Sometimes when I see women that are pregnant, I immediately like can go back to that place in my head.
Oh, wow.
So I had even said surrogate, and you know what, if someone said to me, she's not having, if by chance this played out, you know, oh, she's old, she doesn't want to lose weight, she doesn't want to, I would be like, it is none of your business.
Right.
Because as Star said today at the table, something so important, people may use platforms to talk about things eventually, but it's on their timeline, not yours.
Sure.
And that's the thing. Just because someone knocks doesn't mean you answer.
I'm, you know, when you have a baby on The View, it's always kind of very public. And, you know, we did a gender reveal with you. We did baby showers and things like that. I am always the least observant person in the world when finding out. I remember all the times you told me you were pregnant. I remember, what do you call it? Abby Huntsman, I think, was showing significantly before she told me, and I had no idea. I never have any.
Until someone's pushing a baby.
Yeah,
out,
basically,
you see the head crowning. You never.
I'm just such a dumb guy. I'm just like, yeah, oh, okay, I had no idea, and everyone else is like, yeah, we've known for months. Like,
yeah, but I don't even want to know. There are people that like. We once worked with someone that thrived on finding out. Like, I knew it, and they get so excited. And I thought, I don't understand the excitement on that because, you know, 1, it's my business when someone tells me.
Right.
2, if I look and think it for 1 second, the journey again is so delicate for me, and it's so like I can go back there in my head that I don't want to know. Like, until you tell me I need to know, I don't even want to go there in my own head because it was hard. I
got married to my wife pretty young. I was 28 and she was 24.
Yeah.
But we didn't have kids until I was 35. And so we were living together and married for 7 years with no kids. And it never even occurred to me, but I think everyone around us was wondering, like, why aren't they having children yet? What's going on?
See, that's the privilege of being young married. Because when you're old married, I was single and my mom's like, you can just like have a baby. Right. Like, we don't care with who or... Yeah. And I was like, oh my God. Yeah. I went from an after school special, like, don't get pregnant, to like, we don't care who you have sex with. Just go have sex. We don't care what you know, like, and I was like, oh, wow, I'm old.
Wow. All right. Well, yeah. So, I mean, but that's the thing. Like, I think, you know, we were just living our lives, and you're right. It was about being married young, and that is a privilege. But there is just so much pressure around the entire topic. But I think conversations about it are good. I think conversations like the ones we had on the show today are helpful. Well,
especially if you've come to terms with what it is, there is power in sharing, but that's on your terms. That's the most important part. Right. And some people are just not, they never want to do that. Like, I have a sister who, I don't care what she goes through, she does not want to publicize anything. She doesn't want to talk about it, even with me, and we're close, you know? So there are people that it's comforting and they gain something from talking about it because then they know they're not alone. And there are other people that it's just too vulnerable to mention. Either way, it's just no one's business unless you decide it is.
Absolutely. All right. Michael Strahan was on the show last week on Friday to talk about the special that airs tonight about his daughter Isabella's fight with brain cancer. You're friends with Michael, close friends, and have watched Isabella grow up. Yeah. What struck you the most about her story?
Well, in some ways I don't always think everything happens for a reason, but I think we can find reason looking back. And in some ways, Michael Strahan and his daughters were perfect to tell this brave journey for a few reasons. Michael Strahan is a legendary football player. In this country, football players are kings, and he's a Hall of Famer. Mm-hmm. He has so much money from a career that went from football and all his contracts to all that he does now. And he can't slow down. He can't have less than 5 jobs or he's pretty much unemployed to himself. So he rakes it in. Nothing could have prevented or stopped him. Nothing gave him power to help her more. Yeah. Yes, they do have access to good doctors and they have friends you can ask around. But that doesn't stop cancer.
Right.
So the journey, the fight, he was powerless. All parents feel that. But the symbol of Michael Strahan, it's like Christopher Reeve when you look at his story. Mm-hmm. It took Superman kind of imparting the message. Christopher Reeve's life in some ways was defined by Superman on 2 levels. It feels like Michael Strahan to me. Mm-hmm. He was everything we assign as, dominance, masculinity, strength. I can do anything, but he couldn't help her. Mm-hmm. And that part is the power, I think, of that story. And Isabella,
doing great now.
She's doing great. Yeah. And she is the quieter one. Like, that's why when Michael talked about that, mm-hmm. and he was like, whoa, she's the one that I just didn't see this coming.
Yeah.
I think to floor Michael Strahan in the category of strength and bravery, and it was right in front of him the whole time, it will forever be Isabella. And Sophia jumping in there, because in some ways, Isabella says she was not going to go to the doctor mm-hmm. if her sister did not tell her to. So it's just I'm so happy to be on this side of it.
Yeah.
But in some ways, it's such a life-defining moment. Her whole life could be built around this. Everything from her blog going onward, her appreciation for just a day, just a random Tuesday in any month, mm-hmm. will never change now.
No. He was saying he can't even watch the documentary because it's too hard. I understand that completely. But he seemed so happy that she's well, and he's such a great guy. I have to say, like, of all the people that, you meet doing these jobs, just a genuine, and again, I'm a Giants fan and he's an icon to me, but just warm and, you couldn't ask for a better guy.
It's who he comes from, though. So his parents, I had the privilege to meet Mr. and Mrs. Strahan. Mr. Strahan passed away a couple years ago. But one thing that his dad did that blew me away is his dad was enlisted in the Air Force, and he had been called at times the N-word. And he decided, you can get bitter or you can get bigger and better. He then became an officer to come back and serve, to show them. So it was like, I'm not going to fight you with words. I'm mm-hmm. going to fight you with this. Mm-hmm. And Michael always shares that story of how he felt about, like, his dad's example of saying, I'm going to turn this on its head. And like, I look at his parents, and it's not a surprise Michael turned out the way he did.
Yeah. And then he turned Tom Brady on his head many, many times, which I enjoyed.
That part too.
Yeah. All right. Speaking of Strahan, the Super Bowl is this weekend.
Yeah.
Big football fan that you are.
Huge.
First of all, are you watching? Where are you watching? What are the plans?
Well, I'll go anywhere where there's food. I've spent a couple mm-hmm. Super Bowls with Michael, and all I asked was, what's the food sitch?
Yeah.
So
that's got to be a good Super Bowl
party. Oh gosh, phenomenal. I was pregnant one, and he literally was like, you could take your face out of all the trays and like watch some of the game. And he wasn't wrong there.
Yeah.
I'm going to be watching it at a party. We're Chiefs fans because mm-hmm. my nephew, niece, my sister, they're all Kansas City Chiefs. Not just in the state, they follow the team.
Right.
So I'm very excited. But it always makes me laugh because we did a Super Bowl. Do you remember the special you sent me out on with Summer?
Yeah, that was 2017.
Okay. It kind of sums up everything about a Super Bowl. We went there. That's when we met A-Rod, who mm-hmm. eventually came on our show as a guest host. That was the impetus for that. But when I spotted him, I knew it was a baseball player. I thought that is either Derek Jeter or A-Rod. And the best part is when you look at them, they definitely don't look alike.
Not at all.
So I'm not sure what I was thinking. We did figure out.
Iconic New York Yankee, I guess.
I was like, these guys are both really good at the sport. It's one or the other. I had
mm-hmm.
a 50% chance. But we met him that night, and it was so funny because he was having fun. He wanted to hang out and everything. And I remember our producer, we still had to shoot stuff. And she was like, I don't even know if I can share this, but she was like, we just ditched A-Rod. said no one ever. Why are we running? Because we were so busy shooting and we didn't want to be rude. And
Right.
he had interviewed with us and everything. But then we also, this is so weird. I always tell the story about how I was on OkCupid when I met Max.
Yeah.
There was a guy I met before that didn't call until well beyond meeting Max.
Mm-hmm.
I had not seen him since our date, and we're shooting, and I look over, and he's standing there, and we both greet each other awkwardly. I'm looking back at my friend who's the producer, and she's like we were making faces like there's something. Right when he walks away, I could feel heat. I didn't know if we were still shooting, and
Right.
she goes, "Oh, I know there's a story there. You're going to need to tell me." So like that happened.
So you had a date that you thought went well or didn't go
Oh,
well?
yeah. I was telling my friends who I had dinner with afterwards, I was like, I cannot wait. This guy is so great. Now I proceed to run into him a year later after the Super Bowl, knocked up to all get out. I had Sandra. I was carrying Sandra. I had Alec. We're on a Brooklyn pier, and Max sees the guy, and I couldn't tell Max in real time. So
Right.
he knows about this guy too. But I'm looking at him this is my friend. And we're both doing the same thing I must have done to Summer, awkwardly. And he's introducing me to his friend. And we walk away. I was like, oh my God, Max, that's the guy. And Max had the most epic line. He goes, I sure hope you made the right decision. He's good looking.
Well, break this down. Why do you think he didn't call? Were you
I-
too much?
Probably. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm usually more surprised when they do call than when they don't. But I think there's 1,000 things. It goes to timing too.
Right.
Max.
I feel like you're good at reading situations, though. So if you felt like it went really
No,
well.
there were two. This guy, where I read it wrong.
Yeah.
I really thought he'd call. And then there was one guy that my brother jokes I chased to Hong Kong because he went on a business trip and never came back, or at least never called when he did. And I called him 2 more times. Party foul. Don't follow my example.
Yeah.
But I have chased a few away and gotten it wrong.
Okay.
Usually I just assume the worst. I don't know why, but I remember when he did call, he was like, what happened to that second date? And I'm thinking 6 weeks later,
Yeah.
Then he joked. He's like, are you cheating on me with someone from OkCupid? And I was like, yeah. And, when you lose to the state champ, we ended up married
Sure.
with a bunch of little turkeys.
No,
so.
I think he probably feels at least that you lost out to someone you ended up marrying. But if you're out there listening, because maybe you've been thinking about this a lot, call in.
He's out there. I've run into him 1,000 times.
I'm saying if he's listening
when
to the
I
podcast.
went
Yeah.
with Michael Strahan to Yankee Stadium to do a segment for our show,
He was there too.
I'm crossing the crosswalk in Brooklyn and I see him in a car. I've never known anyone that passes me in a car in New York City. That happens in Newton, Iowa. The amount of run-ins are crazy.
The other thing that happened when you went to the Super Bowl, I want to go back to this because I've been to a bunch of Super Bowls and also for work. But we were doing a bit with you where you were eating other people's food. And you,
Which also tracks. I still do that.
yeah, but you took a hot dog from what turned out to be a very famous country singer.
Yeah, I think you see what you want. I didn't know that it was,
It was Thomas Rhett.
it was Thomas Rhett, but it was delicious.
Okay.
And it really didn't matter whose food it was. I
Sure.
wasn't discriminating. I didn't need it to be a celebrity. I just needed a hot dog. Because we were talking about food has always been my through line for every party I go to, if we're
Right.
being honest. But Super Bowl's for sure.
Yeah.
That's my only
Super Bowl
concern.
food is the best. I'm
It
very
is.
excited. When I used to work for Letterman, I went to the Super Bowl every year. I went for 11
I
years
know,
in
and
a row.
you went on the field and tried to get them for dates.
My job was to book the winning quarterback to come back to New York and be on the Letterman show
we had
the
such
next night.
different jobs. Mine was to eat
Yeah.
people's food, and yours was to.
Yeah, but there's nothing like it. The people you run into, the stars that are everywhere, the parties are unbelievable. I was always filled with incredible pressure, so I never really got to enjoy it. But
I enjoyed it. I ate everyone's food. I got to hang out in we went up into the boxes to get interviews, and we
Oh, those are
ran
the
back
best
into
places.
A-Rod. No, but the best part, that was the game. It was a famous game.
The Falcons.
What?
The Falcons, Patriots were playing. The
Those
Falcons
teams were playing, and someone was down.
The Patriots were down.
Patriots are down, so people were leaving. We're in the lobby. I'm on my phone. All of a sudden, we see all these celebrities. We saw Usher. We saw Gisele Bundchen, who's no longer running back to the game.
No.
But she was that year. But we're watching, and I'm scrolling, and I looked like a millennial. I was like, what's happening? Summer goes, it's big. They're coming back. And I was like, are we going to eat dinner, or was that?
The biggest comeback in Super Bowl history.
It was huge.
It was a big
and I
deal.
just remember being like, why are they running that way?
Yeah.
It was because the game was coming back.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, that was a
It
good
was
one.
a wasted spot for me.
It was, but I'd like to take the View back sometime. I think that'd be fun.
Oh, yeah,
I think it'd
definitely.
be great. We
I
should
think the
all go.
play-by-play of the group would be hysterical.
I think so too. All right. Well, that's for the future. But for now, thank you for joining me today, Sarah.
Thank you, Brian.
Tomorrow, I'll be back with Anna Navarro. And then we'll see you then. And on Friday, we're going to have a little Super Bowl themed show going on.
Oh,
so
we
that'll be
have
fun.
food too.
We have food. The Super Bowl Smackdown.
Back to the
Snack
shocking
down.
theme here.
Yeah.
The food.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. The big game Snackdown.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody.